Hi, I'm Jason Githens, a Principal Program Manager Lead on the Enterprise Client Team, and today I'm going to be talking about accelerating your Windows 10 deployments at scale using the management products of System Center Configuration Manager combined with Intune. So let's jump right in. So the objectives and takeaways for today are really about choosing the best deployment options for your organization to get to Windows 10, keeping Windows 10 up to date, and then managing those key enterprise features of Windows 10 and enhancing productivity while you do that. So let's move on through the slide deck. So what's driving change here? What's driving change in the way that we use devices, the way that we manage devices, is really around the devices being anywhere. Devices are on the internet, devices are in pockets, devices are still on corporate networks as well. Between the user and the devices, there are apps, there's data, then the IT department is accountable for making sure that those devices are secure, that data is secure, and it's a rapidly evolving ecosystem with users getting new devices, new platforms, and Microsoft's reaction to this is really around providing all the tools that IT needs at the cadence they need them to be successful managing the new world of mobile devices, the new world of management of these devices, and protecting data on these devices. So with Windows 10, the significant investments for business around protection against modern security threats, managed for continuous innovation to not only benefit the end user, but to enable the IT pro to protect those devices and the data on those devices as the ecosystem of technology evolves in a way that is on a rapid cadence, and Windows, as well as the management tools, the Microsoft management tools around Windows, need to evolve in that rapid cadence and constantly design for innovation to make devices that users love to use and make devices that IT departments are able to manage and protect. There's enhanced productivity as an investment for business through the business store, as well as the universal apps in the business store, and then delivery of those business store apps, as an example, through the Microsoft management tools. Finally, there's innovative devices for your business. There's multiple device types, multiple form factors. There are devices that are meant to make the information worker successful, devices for the task worker, for the assembly line, multiple devices and multiple ways to manage those devices using Windows 10 and the Microsoft management solutions on top of Windows 10, specifically System Center Configuration Manager combined with Intune. So the Enterprise Mobility Suite is the suite of management solutions that layer on top of Windows 10 to provide a unified identity model through Azure Active Directory Premium, for managing applications and devices through Intune, and for protecting data through Azure RMS. Another piece of the EMS, the overall EMS suite, is also System Center Configuration Manager, because that's the foundational on-premises PC agent management tool in use by predominantly in the enterprise today. And there's the connective tissue between System Center Configuration Manager and Intune, along with the other pieces of EMS, provide an all-encompassing management suite that traverses the on-premises requirements of today and paints the path towards the cloud management model of the future, while providing customers the ability to pick and choose from a flexible architecture to manage devices where they live and the way that you want to manage them. And I'll get into that a little bit more. So enhancing the Windows 10 experience with EMS, it really starts with deployment. Deployment with Windows 10 provides a number of options to get Windows 10 business ready. For first step, like right out of the box, you can use Azure Active Directory Join and auto enrollment into Intune, or a hybrid configuration of Intune and System Center Configuration Manager plus Intune. And you can achieve the out-of-box experience where a user gets a device, they open it up, they put in their corporate credentials, it auto-registers with Azure Active Directory and auto-enrolls into Intune. Policies and apps start flowing and the user can start doing work right away. Additionally, there's a new model for provisioning called the provisioning package. There's an authoring tool for the provisioning package whereby the IT pro can author a configuration standard for their devices and inject that into the devices so that they boot up into and start life with a corporate configuration as defined by the IT department. And finally, there is in-place upgrade of Windows 10 of your existing devices, your Windows 7, 8, 8.1 PCs, that you can use the Config Manager agent to upgrade those. An upgrade is now a first-class citizen, and I'll talk about that, whereby you can use a powerful new upgrade process to greatly reduce the barriers to adoption of Windows 10 for your install base of Windows 7, 8, and 8.1 clients. Alongside those options, of course, there are traditional models of wipe and load using the Windows ADK and the operating system deployment tool in System Center Configuration Manager, and the traditional ways of doing image management, along with the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, MDT. So for configuring Windows 10, there are expansive Windows MDM settings exposed for management in Windows 10 that cross SKUs across mobile and x86 versions of Windows. There are other things like PerApp VPN, Microsoft Passport policies to simplify and secure authentication on the device. There's Windows Universal Apps and Win32 app support through the MDM channel. And there's also support for Volume Purchase app through the Windows Store for Business. For management and protection, there's a great new security feature of enterprise data protection to prevent data leakage on devices and manage applications directly from the platform, including new applications as well as your legacy Win32 applications. RMS integration adds another layer of file security as part of the EMS suite. Additionally, there's Device Guard and App Locker policies. Device Guard provides the tools whereby you can fully lock down a system to run only approved application, and that works from the boot level up. We also have the ability with existing versions of Config Manager to configure Device Guard, apply those policies, and install those applications that are adherent to Device Guard policies. And there is, though you can search for a blog on that, which is coming out, which will explain how to do that with Configuration Manager. There's advanced conditional access policies, which gates access to Office resources by conditions of compliance and management, which works across our ecosystem of management through MDM enrollment, through Intune, and Configuration Manager agent-based management through Configuration Manager. Additionally, there's measures for integration with Windows Health Attestation Service. Health Attestation Service provides rigid compliance validation of the client as it talks to a cloud service to validate the structural health of the client, which can also be can also be part of the conditional access model, gating access to resources on that health attestation state that comes back from the cloud service for health attestation. And finally, there's unified device management. Unified device management is a key differentiator of the EMS suite plus SCCM in that it provides a pathway for your implementation of Configuration Manager to help you get to Windows 10, and the flexibility to use both the agent-based management of Configuration Manager along with the connector to Intune for your mobile device management story, expanded by the Enterprise Mobility Suite to cover things like identity through Azure Active Directory Premium and data protection through Azure RMS. And new in Configuration Manager, it's faster to upgrade to the new version. We support Windows 10 servicing for the Windows as a Service model, which I'll talk a lot about today. And we provide on-premises MDM for Windows 10 for those business-critical devices that perhaps you don't want talking to the cloud. You can enroll those directly into Configuration Manager and get mobile device management capabilities on those on-premises devices without the device talking to the cloud. Now, that does require an Intune subscription, but it doesn't mean that the device has to actually go out to the cloud. So a little bit about our flexible management options. We have on the left-hand side here our Intune standalone model, and that's purely cloud. That's our cloud-based model that can do mobile device management, is along with coupled with all the other pieces of EMS, and provide your things like conditional access, mobile application management, etc., purely from the cloud. No on-premises hardware required for that configuration. Then there's the config manager integrated with Intune, which we often call our hybrid configuration. Our hybrid configuration is a great flexible deployment option that lets you take your existing install base of agent-based Windows 7, 8, 8.1 the PCs, get them to Windows 10, and has the flexibility to extend that perimeter to the cloud to manage those devices through MDM, Windows 10, and other platforms through the Intune side of the service, which manages devices where they typically live, which is often not on the corporate network. It's often roaming on the public internet. So the flexible configuration option here really provides a way to manage devices that best suit your organization through a combination of mobile device management on the Intune side of this hybrid configuration to the agent-based management style of Configuration Manager on the on-premises side of this configuration. Additionally, Configuration Manager agent-based management is a great pathway to get your existing 7, 8, 8.1 devices to Windows 10. So how should you deploy Windows 10? There are multiple methods which I've touched on, so I'll cover a little bit more in depth here. There's the traditional model where you take an existing device or a new device, we often call bare metal, and you use imaging tools like Microsoft Deployment Toolkit or Operating System Deployment and Configuration Manager, and you effectively wipe and load the device. You wipe the old image, load a new image, and you basically move data, you protect data, or you save data, and you put the data back on the device after that wipe and load is complete. You can also inject drivers, install applications, etc. It's a traditional way of doing a Windows deployment supported by Configuration Manager today and with the vNext version, as well as the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit. There's an improved process here, which I touched on earlier, around upgrade. Upgrade is great for expediting the time it takes to deploy the upgrade to Windows 10. It also doesn't have all of the overhead around driver validation or getting the right drivers back down or application validation. It preserves state through the process, and it truly is an upgrade. And we've done a number of investments working with Windows to make upgrade a first-class citizen in Windows, getting to Windows 10, and that's inclusive, as I've said, Windows 7, 8, 8.1 to 10 through the upgrade process. And I'll talk a little bit more about the value of upgrade. Then there's the modern ways to do it. Modern ways are really about, there are two paths to modern provisioning of Windows, and that's the IT Pro provisioning, and there are a couple of tools the IT Pro can use there, both based on the concept of a provisioning package. A provisioning package is an instruction set that the PC takes, or the device takes, and executes at reboot, and it applies all the configurations embedded in that instruction set, which is the provisioning package. Additionally, we have a lighter form of the provisioning profile built into Configuration Manager, which can bootstrap the enrollment of the device directly into on-prem MDM through Configuration Manager or through Intune in a hybrid configuration. And what that is we call that our Lifeline profile, which gets the device on the network, and it also enrolls the device into the appropriate management authority of your choosing. So, and I'll click through that example in a little bit. The other piece here to mention is, I talked a little bit about earlier, is that out-of-box experience, where a user can open a box, put in their corporate credentials, register with Azure Active Directory, which auto-enrolls into Intune, and policies and applications start flowing down. The user can go from the box to productive in a very short amount of time. So thinking about deploying and managing Windows 10, we have all these options now. What's the best option for you? This is a simplified diagram of the ways to think about deploying Windows 10. This isn't all of the options. There are multiple that really highlighted in the previous slide, but this is a way to think about the value of the flexible architecture of Configuration Manager combined with Intune, combined with EMS. If you take, for example, your existing Windows 7, 8, 8.1 devices, they have Win32 apps with loads of dependencies, a lot of LOB applications, complex application set, large application suites already converted to the Config Manager app model, and they're Config Manager agent-based managed today. Then an ideal path there, or path to really consider, is the upgrade path to Windows 10 with Config Manager. The upgrade path preserves your apps and configuration, and it maintains the management processes, tools, and principles that you have today. What I mean by that is it minimizes the change control that you have to go through to change your management style from agent-based to MDM, or to or going through a full wipe and load process, which we all know takes a lot of time to prepare for. So it's a fast path to get your existing ecosystem to Windows 10. And it's also an on-ramp to the cloud over time. With our flexible architecture, we having both MDM capabilities on-prem through Intune via the connector in a hybrid configuration, and agent-based, you really have the management style of you can move to the management style of your choosing at the cadence you choose. For example, you may have users that use predominantly universal applications from the store. They are rarely on the corporate network, they're often traveling, and they may be ideal candidates to move to a mobile device management solution when they get to Windows 10. Then you may have a department like a treasury department, which never leaves the office, dealing with highly sensitive data, uses a ton of line of business applications that are Win32 based with complex dependencies. They may be users that you don't move right away to cloud management or to mobile device management, where the agent-based model makes the most sense. So the main point to make is that with the flexible architecture, you can manage the devices the way that your business wants to manage them, given the standards that you have. And you have the mobility and flexibility to move to different management styles over time at a cadence of your choosing. But with Config Manager Foundation, that's a great bootstrapper to get you to Windows 10. And then with the flexible architecture combined with Intune and EMS, provides an entry point to the cloud with using the same configuration that you have today, which using that optimized for that Intune connector. And at the bottom of this is just an example, which I mentioned earlier. A new Windows device shows up, a new Windows device that's not pre-existing in your environment, and you can hand that out to the user, who can use their corporate credentials and choose this as a corporate-owned device, and like I mentioned, enroll directly into Intune or a hybrid configuration. Or you can take a provisioning package, put that on the device, reboot it, and get to the default standard configuration at first boot. And then you can manage those devices with MDM. You can take advantage of the great new universal apps in the Windows Store for Business. And there's even some basic MSI support with MDM there for those well-written MSIs that don't have a big dependency, don't have a dependency chain that you want to execute an MSI installation on. So as you can see, the models are starting to converge, but there will still be paths that you would choose that will be optimized for your business. And we want to give you the flexibility to use the architecture that makes the most sense for you. So let's talk a little bit about in-place upgrade with Config Manager. The main value of in-place upgrade is it's threefold. It reduces upfront testing, it's faster, and has more robust rollback capabilities, as well as it's really another tool in your toolbox for deploying Windows 10. You'll still have cases where wipe and load or refresh is optimal. You'll have cases where modern deployment methods are optimal. It's a tool for you to consider as an expedited path to get to Windows 10, and it has a lot of value in expediting the process and readiness to start moving to Windows 10 on your existing install base of Windows 7, 8, and 8.1. As an example, taking the Microsoft IT experience using Upgrade, you can really trace the arc up of, and the main lines to pay attention to here are the green line around user experience or user satisfaction going up from 7 to 10 as the Windows deployment models used by Microsoft IT transition from custom solution to MDT, SCCM, plus the IT Easy installer. And they started experimenting with Upgrade around the 8.1 timeframe, using Update in the 8.1 update, and then a full-on upgrade path from all versions of Windows to Windows 10. And you can see that user satisfaction based on user polls, that line trending way up with the upgrade process. What's also interesting, what trends down in this model, is the complexity and the effectively help desk calls. So calls went down, user experience and user satisfaction went up. And so this is a real case from real data from Microsoft IT that shows the value of upgrade and how it can be used as an effective tool to not just as a cost savings tool, as well as a user satisfaction capability or user satisfaction increase as users go through that transition process from their existing operating system to their new Windows 10 operating system. So for a quick demo here, I'm just going to cut over and show the native task sequence for upgrade. So it's pre-created here that I've created in advance, and that's going to talk through the taxonomy a little bit of the task sequence. So if you just choose Edit here, just a quick run through, there's a check for readiness option where you can do some check for readiness settings for example, ensuring minimum memory, drive space, etc. Then there is an upgrade page that has a simplified set of values you set for the upgrade process, picking your upgrade package. And down here, you also can see that you can check perform setup compatibility scan without actually starting an upgrade. That's a great way on some test machines to see what would have happened had you actually tried to install the image or the new version of Windows 10, and it gives you status reporting back as to any issues it might have found in line without actually upgrading the system. From the restart perspective, there's custom messaging you can provide the end user. And then there's post-processing, or installing applications or updates once you get to Windows 10. So we've tried to make a simplified task sequence process built natively into Configuration Manager that can help you author and create your upgrade process, and taking advantage of the work we did with Windows on improving setup in Windows 10 to work better with Configuration Manager when it comes to upgrade. So that's just a quick run through of what's available in Configuration Manager, the next version of Configuration Manager, in terms of a native task sequence to help you with that upgrade process. So on to modern deployment options. We have two classifications of modern deployment options. One is the IT-driven process using new tools such as the Windows Image and Configuration Designer to author a provisioning package or authoring a provisioning profile directly in the Config Manager console for Intune or Config Manager enrollment. And then there's user-driven. User-driven is that example I gave before where the user walks out on his front steps, grabs a box, opens it up, puts in his Azure Active Directory credentials, and authenticates directly on the device, registers in Azure Active Directory, and auto-enrolls into Intune or a hybrid configuration. Applications and policies start coming down, and the user gets right to work. So that's another great option for modern deployment options, and I'll demo a couple of those. So quickly about the provisioning package, this slide just gives you an example of some of the capabilities that come with the Windows and Image Configuration Designer around setup. One of the really cool ones that I think is the addition upgrade process, or the addition upgrade model that lets you author a provisioning package and put in your key. And what that allows you to do is get from a Pro SKU, as an example, to an Enterprise SKU. Directly on a device without having to re-image it. The benefit of this is you can order a vanilla image device from an OEM. You can use a provisioning package to invoke a SKU upgrade, and you can get that device from Pro to Enterprise without having to put down a new image, which is a big time saver. There's also the provisioning profile built into Configuration Manager for that auto enrollment into Intune and Configuration Manager. And so I'll do a cutover for a quick demo there to show you what the authoring experience in Configuration Manager looks like. So if you go down here to Windows Enrollment Profile, this is where you can create an enrollment profile, which will allow you to auto-enroll a device with this provisioning profile you create here for on-premises or cloud. That would be for on-premises MDM or to Intune in a hybrid configuration. And it's fairly simple, straightforward workflow. You pick your site assignment. We'll pick our site code, enrollment proxy. We'll pick an internet enrollment proxy. Any certificates that you might need, Wi-Fi profile, and that's it. Then you create the enrollment profile. you export it out and you put it on a device and it reboots the device, and it effectively goes through all the steps of getting the device on Wi-Fi, enrolling it into Configuration Manager MDM or into the Intune MDM in a hybrid configuration. So it's a simple 5-click process to get a provisioning profile. You can time bomb the profile, you can password protect it, etc. But it's easy to get out, put on a share, put on a USB drive, an SD card, an NFC tag, and simplify. For example, a branch manager can go tap a Windows tablet to an NFC tag, get the profile on there, and reboot it, and the device enrolls directly for MDM management without a lot of IT overhead in that process. So it's just another example of one of the modern management, modern enrollment processes to get to Windows 10 into management quickly that's new with Windows 10 and Configuration Manager, the next version of Configuration Manager. So I'll go ahead and exit out of that. The next process I'm going to talk through is, I've mentioned it quite a bit, so I'll not recover the same ground again, but it's the auto enrollment into Intune through Azure Active Directory Join. And I think that's best shown by a demo, but the high level process is it effectively, like I mentioned, you boot the device, the user boots the device, she puts in her credentials or chooses that it's a corporate-owned device, puts in her Azure Active Directory credentials, which are effectively the same credentials she used to access corporate mail or to log onto her PC at work. And then the process starts whereby the device is enrolled into Intune or registered with Active Directory, enrolled into Intune, and it's under management. So for a quick demo of that, let me cut over to my demo host again. So what you see here is I've preloaded the machine up to the window. This is imagine a first boot experience. I've just pulled the device out of a box, I booted it, and at this point I get to pick, do I want to join Azure AD or join a domain? Now, this is on an enterprise SKU. If I had pulled a professional professional version out of the box, I would have the ability to choose between an Azure Active Directory login or a Microsoft account login based on the ownership type that I choose. So the screen is slightly different based on enterprise or professional. The primary use case would be professional, where you would go directly, you'd order a professional SKU directly from OEM, ship it to the user. They would then choose that this is corporate owned. They would put in their Azure Active Directory credentials, and off they go. The other option here, which I'm showing on the screen, is for an enterprise SKU, you could have join a standard on-prem domain experience, or you could join Azure Active Directory. And so if I choose join Azure Active Directory here, it tells me what that is optimal for. I click next, and then I simply go in and type in my credentials. Put in my password, and click sign in. And that's just that's all there is to it. I put in my credentials and it starts setting up my device. Now we'll come back to that towards the end, and we'll show the devices at the pin set screen. So it shows you that it goes through the workflow. It takes the pin policy that's been defined, and the user has to put a pin in that meets that policy. But for now, we'll cut back to slides, and we'll come check back on that in a minute. So Windows as a service. Windows as a service is a new paradigm being used by Windows that really changes the game. Instead of a multi-year cycle where new versions of Windows come out and you get new features, with Windows as a service, there'll be iterative new feature and value added and rapid innovation that will come out throughout the course of a year, multiple times per year. For consumer devices, keeping hundreds of millions of consumers up to date. Business users update employee devices after features are validated in the market. So after they've hit the consumer market, then there's the business user, which is called the current branch for business. And then those users basically get the consumer branch or current branch is used to validate all the new changes to Windows before they go to business users, and so they get a lot of runtime to make sure that they've been tested, they've been validated, that there are no issues, and then a current branch for business releases. Additionally, there's a special systems type of use case, which is called the long-term servicing branch. And with the long-term servicing branch, that branch of Windows is not upgraded frequently. That's primarily intended for those business critical systems that you don't want or need new features on, that you want the foundational build that was released at a particular period of time, and you don't want to, or you can't risk absorbing changes on those devices. They have a special use case. You want to keep them consistent with that use case, and you don't want them to be consuming a servicing model. So the rings of Windows as a service. There's the engineering builds, which is internal validation. Then there's broad Microsoft internal validation for tens of thousands of users. There's the insider preview with several million users. Then you get into hundreds of millions with Current Branch, and then Current Branch for Business. And within Current Branch for Business, with power of Configuration Manager, is that we let you define internal rings to basically schedule when the Current Branch for Business will hit various users within your organization. So you can stage the rollout, and your day zero rollout may be your IT department. And then 30 days later, you want early adopters or the equivalent of insiders in your organization to get that release. But the main point of this slide is to show under that Current Branch for Business, the Configuration Manager, with its adaptation to and support of Windows as a service, provides you the way to do those internal rings at the schedule of your choosing, using the power of Configuration Manager deployment, scheduling, and the integration with Windows as a service to support the Windows as a service model. So just talking a bit through a deployment strategy, there's the Insider Preview branch with specific feature and performance feedback, test machines, small pilot. Then there's Current Branch, great for like IT departments, early adopters. Current Branch for Business is after you've done that internal validation against those technical users in your organization or those select users in your organization. Then there's Current Branch for Business, which is Information Works, general population, and that's where you stage your broader deployment. And you roll that out over time, and Config Manager gives you the power to control that schedule and which users are hit at which point in time with the new Current Branch for Business update. And you can manage that rollout in a way that's secure for your environment, so you're taking advantage of the great new features in that new release of Windows or new update to Windows, but at a cadence that meets your organization's requirements and the users that you want to target with that deployment. Again, Current Branch, you may target your IT department and your early adopters, and with Current Branch for Business, you start an iterative rollout or a gradual rollout to your broader information worker population. And then, of course, you still have the long-term servicing branch on the far right there for your specialized systems and the systems that you don't want to invoke any change on. And so all models are available. And Configuration Manager, as I'll show in a minute, has been designed in vNext to really support this model and make you successful with Windows as a service. So the new System Center Configuration Manager. It's really, the first step is simplifying the upgrade experience. We want to make it easy for you to get from your existing Configuration Manager 2012 installation to the next version of Configuration Manager. So the upgrade is Service Pack-like. It is not a complex upgrade. It's not a migration. It is very much Service Pack-like. And what happens when you adopt the new model of Configuration Manager, the new version of Configuration Manager, is that we are now on a servicing model. So we are on a model that matches the Windows as a service model, whereby we are bringing updates down and making updates available to you in an iterative way that just continues over time, aligned with the cadence of Windows as a service. For example, the release name of the next version of Configuration Manager is System Center Configuration Manager, without a year. The reason it doesn't have a year is that we will iteratively update that version with an update that will come out along the same cadence of Windows as a service. For example, the Q4 release might be called System Center Configuration Manager version 1511. That's year followed by month. Then there may be an update in February, which would be 1602. So we will provide updates at a regular cadence to support the Windows as a service model and the new features in Windows 10, and will make it very easy to consume those updates without impacting your environment or without risk to impact of your environment. That comes down through our new servicing model. There's a role that connects up to a cloud service, which brings the updates down. They show up in your console, and you have up to 12 months to install the latest cumulative update. So we do give you 12 months to start consuming those updates as they come down. It also keeps us in line with the monthly Intune updates. For our hybrid configuration customers, this channel provides us a way to keep parity with our cloud service, which we update monthly, and the on-prem components in a hybrid configuration that connect to that cloud service. So the new update model supports both Windows as a service and optimizes for Windows as a service, as well as keeping up with parity with the cloud part of the hybrid configuration that's done on the Intune side, which is a monthly cadence. So this greatly simplifies and expedites our ability to deliver great new features for both MDM and Windows 10 safely over time at the pace the customer chooses to consume them. Then the last bullet point here is really around, we've really invested a lot in user voice and taking the feedback from user voice and using that to drive our engineering processes and delivering the great features that customers want. A couple of examples there. One of the top user voice items was combining Software Center with Application Catalog, which we've done now with, I'll talk about a little bit later. We have a combined end user portal. And another factor that we use to enable us to achieve this rapid iteration is that we have data and telemetry that we use that helps us test and release fast. So these are critical changes, both user voice and data and telemetry, which let us identify issues that customers might be seeing, features customers want, and the data and telemetry to build out what we need to test, what we need to validate before we release one of these updates to assure that it's safe for your environment, it is high quality, and that allows you to get to consume that update pack rapidly to keep up with the Windows 10 cadence and enjoy all the great features that are coming through Windows as a service. So as I mentioned earlier, the upcoming release of Configuration Manager is yearless. It's yearless because its release vehicle is Current Branch. Current Branch means that we will keep it current till the end of time. It doesn't have a date whereby you need to go upgrade to the next version of Configuration Manager. We're iteratively releasing updates to Config Manager all throughout the year, year over year, and it's generally available in Q4 of this year. So all the new Windows 10 features are supported in this version of Configuration Manager. Now the reason for that is that with the rapid iteration of Windows, it would be very challenging for us to go back and keep adding cumulative updates and service packs to 2012 to keep that version current with new Windows features. So we're really asking customers to join us on this journey to a current branch model, a servicing model for Configuration Manager, because it allows you to keep up and support the great new features of Windows 10, and also allows for hybrid customers that are also using Intune for MDM to keep parity between those two configurations to assure we deliver on that flexible architecture promise, that we deliver on-prem capability as rapidly as we're delivering cloud-based capability. It's really just the Microsoft way of the future to deliver that continuous innovation, not just in one product, not just in Windows, not just in Office, but in the ecosystem of products that is required to make enterprises successful in using both of those cornerstone products of Microsoft. Like I said, you can defer updates up to 12 months. And the new version, System Center Configuration Manager, will support Windows 10 Current Branch for Business, and the long-term servicing branch. And the graph at the bottom here just shows the Current Branch version being 15.11. Then come winter, there'll be another version that's year, month, and another version being year, month. So that's the cadence we'll get into. And when I cut over to the demo, you'll see that naming convention reflected in a console node that gives you easy access to those updates, tells you what features are in those updates, and lets you install and apply those updates at a time of your choosing in a safe way by doing prerequisite checks and installing setting servicing windows for your servers that might be impacted, and also staging any client updates that come as part of that update pack. This graph is really just meant to show what current versions of Configuration Manager will support. The main point to make here is that we will support Windows 10 App Compat with in-market versions of Configuration Manager, but for new capabilities, you will need to move to the System Center Configuration Manager version releasing in Q4, starting with the 15.11 update to Configuration Manager. That's where the new Windows 10 features come in. So now I'm going to cut over to demo here and show you the new update and servicing node, the servicing dashboard for Windows, and how you think about and how to configure those update rings as you navigate the new Windows as a Service model. Okay, so here we are at the updates and servicing node, the new node that we've added that allows you to effectively keep Configuration Manager up to date with the latest features of Windows, the latest features for MDM, and they effectively will land in this list view, and it's very simple to interact with them. So this is an example here. This should read 15.11, but there's an issue with the string. Anyway, all you really need to do here is you highlight it, you click on features, it shows you the features that are available in this particular update, and then you right click and you can either install the update pack, or you can run a prereq check to see what components might be impacted if you went ahead and installed the update pack. And with that, you can effectively run prereq, see what would be impacted, make a decision to move forward, or you can choose to just install the update pack, and that will run through prerequisite checks for you, and then let you choose, for example, to stage the client rollout if it's required. It'll tell you which components are impacted, etc. So we've tried to make it as simple to adopt as possible. These will roll in here, at a regular cadence. We're not limited to the Windows as a Service cadence. We can effectively deliver updates and servicing at any point, and they can be inclusive of hot fixes, bug fixes, security fixes, as well as new features. And we can deliver these, like I said, at any point in time. We're try to keep these aligned to the Windows as a Service model, but if a new feature for MDM comes out, we'd have the ability to drop that down as well and let you choose to do that. And there are effectively three types of update packs you would see in here. There's cumulative update, which is more of that, 3-4 times a year update that has a bundle of features, fixes, updates in it. Then there is an update, which effectively might be an out-of-band release of just supporting a new MDM capability that's maybe not tied to Windows 10. And then there is hotfix and security updates. Those could be delivered, for urgent security fixes that we find or get reported. We could also drop those down through this channel as well. So really, gone are the days where you have to go seek out a CU, a service pack, a hotfix. Those will all plumb down through this channel. It's a very simple to use interface. So if we move on to the Windows servicing model. So what we're looking at here is our dashboard that we put in place to really try to help you navigate and be successful with Windows as a Service. And the first diagram or first graphic here is showing you your usage. This just shows the number of clients that are on a particular version of Windows. That's a quick glance view of what clients, what versions are out in your environment. Your rings are the users or the devices that you've targeted with a particular branch. There's release ready, which is current branch, business ready, which is current branch for business, and long-term servicing branch. So this just outlines the number of users that you've targeted in each of those branches. Users or systems in a collection. It's a reflection of a collection view. So this gives you a quick view of who's been targeted or number of users been targeted with the various branches of Windows. And then under servicing plan, you can then create a servicing plan here that allows you to build out that iterative schedule I talked about. So we'll call this Contoso IT Current. And then we'll go pick a target collection of Contoso Insiders, pick a deployment package, and then pick a servicing ring. And since this is our IT department, we want these to be on current branch. So we're going to pick those, and I won't run through the whole wizard here, but effectively this gives you a simple way to create your day zero ring for current branch by targeting your IT department. Now if I go down here I don't have any deployments actually going on, but if I go down here, you will see be able to monitor your servicing plans to see the number of users in that, or number of users or devices in each of those servicing plans that are compliant. Whereas compliant means they have the latest version of Windows based on the branch that you've chosen for them. So, for example, I pre-created Contoso IT early adopters and Contoso insiders. The early adopters, which I'll cut over now to the servicing plans list view so we can get some more detail. So for the IT early adopters, if I go in here and check properties, and I cut over to deployment ring, the deployment ring tabs, this shows that these users are going to get the release ready or current branch for Windows 10, and they're going to start getting it day 0. And that's day 0 relative to when Microsoft has published the new upgrade and it's been consumed by Configuration Manager for redistribution. So day 0, Microsoft releases the Windows 10 current branch update for November. Day 0, the IT department will start seeing it. And of course, you can set the mandatory times, make it optional, and then mandatory 7 days later, similar to most deployments in Configuration Manager. But this just is an easy way to determine, or easy way to configure which users will get which branch at which point in time relative to its release. So if I cancel out of this and I go to my insiders, I don't have on current branch, but I have them on current branch for business. So if I go to my insiders, I can see that their servicing plan is, or their deployment ring is business ready. So they're on the current branch for business. And I'm going to give, even though the current branch for business is going to be offset from the current branch release, I want to give them an additional 30 days from when that current branch for business is released and brought down by Config Manager and deployed. So this gives me some time to go ahead and validate that as well. And I may have a release ring in between these two where I validate IT department on current branch for business, or part of the IT department on current branch for business day 0, and then I defer my insiders 30 days offset from that just to get deeper validation. And I can run that all the way out to 120 days past the release of the new upgrade of that particular branch. And then that's an overview of our support for the servicing model. So now I'll cut back to my slides. I mentioned conditional access earlier, and the conditional access is a key investment we made in EMS complementing Windows 10 to assure that whatever way you manage the device, whether it's with a Config Manager agent, whether the device is just domain joined, or if the device is enrolled into Intune for MDM management, that we provide you those controls to control user access to corporate resources like Office 365 by assuring the device is compliant and the device is managed. So those are the primary pivots of our conditional access control. And the main point I wanted to make on this slide is that we support all flavors of management for conditional access. Again, there's Intune and Config Manager managed, meaning that they have to be managed by Intune or managed by Configuration Manager agent. And there's also compliant with Intune and Config Manager managed devices. Compliance would mean like software updates are current, latest version of Defender, the Defender signature, etc. Multiple compliance conditions you can set that effectively gate access to corporate resources based on that condition. For example, if I have the Config Manager agent installed and it reports that I'm not compliant with updates, that value, that compliance state can be written up through Config Manager through Intune in a hybrid configuration over to Azure Active Directory to flag my device as non-compliant. So when I try to access Office 365 resources, it will effectively it will return back to me that I'm not compliant and I can't get my mail unless I get back to compliant. And so again, the main point of conditional access here is that it assures that you're not accessing corporate resources if you don't meet the IT compliance standards, and that it's applicable to all of our configurations. Again, highlighting that flexible configuration or flexible architecture power of EMS and Configuration Manager better together story. With enterprise data protection, you get the ability to really protect data leakage at the platform level, prevent data leakage at the platform level. And the beauty of the enterprise data protection model is that it is platform-based, it is Windows-based, so it applies to Win32 applications, universal applications. It's highly configurable to set the applications that you use and identify and target them as managed. So when then corporate data is opened in those applications, the data is encrypted. The data can be deleted upon wiping of that device. And these policies can be managed by both Config Manager Agent or in a hybrid configuration through MDM or through Intune standalone MDM, where you can configure what your managed applications are. You can configure the behavior of data moving from managed application to unmanaged, meaning you can block, cut, copy, and paste. You can block, save as. You can prevent corporate data from going to non-corporate sources where their data might be at risk for leakage. To wrap up on some of the key features we're adding with Config Manager vNext and with Windows 10 is enhanced user experiences. Like I mentioned before, there's the consistent look and feel of the company portal combining System Center and Software Center and the application catalog. There is the support for Microsoft Passport to support next generation credentials, and there's the support for Windows Universal apps, both offline in Configuration Manager and online in our hybrid and Intune standalone configurations, which lets you take full advantage of the Windows Store for Business to procure your applications and deliver those using the combined management suite of EMS plus Configuration Manager. So for a last demo, I will cut over to Enterprise Data Protection and show a quick demo of Windows Store for Business, and then we'll wrap up. So what I want to show for Enterprise Data Protection here, on the console side, I've already configured Enterprise Data Protection for Office 2013 applications. Fairly simple to configure. I choose the name of the publisher, I choose the name of the product, and the path to the binaries if I want to do explicit applications in the Office 2013 suite. One key piece here is this is Office 2013, not even Office 2016, so it's just to show that it works on the Win32 application that you define, that you use in your environment without any special updates to the application needed, which is a great way to start using Enterprise Data Protection right away. There are also multiple options around Enterprise Data Protection around what happens when data tries to leave a managed app to an unmanaged app. You can, for example, you can have it turned off. You can audit, so you can build sort of a heat map of what your user's typical data transfer patterns are. And you can allow but warn to tell the users, hey, I see you're copying from an unmanaged or managed to an unmanaged location. Are you sure you want to do that? This will be audited. And you can block outright. And you can tell the user that we don't allow this. And I'm going to show an example of the last option to block outright. First thing to point out here is you can see that there's a graphical indicator that these are managed applications by this lock and building icon up here. And then if I go open Windows, open Word, which as you can see from that screen is blocked, or is managed, I should say. And if I select all here, and then try to go open this top secret details into Notepad, and Notepad is not defined as a managed application, it's going to inform me that I can't move encrypted content here. So it's telling me that this document I'm working out of was authored, edited, opened in a managed application and can't be moved, or the content from that application or that file can't be moved to an unmanaged application. So it tells me I can't move encrypted content here. I'm going to say got it. And then from File Explorer, we also clearly indicate a protected file, encrypted file that is adherent to Enterprise Data Protection policy relative to an unprotected file, which is a personal file that you can open, cut, copy, and paste as much as you want by the same kind of building lock icon. So in Explorer view, you can get a sense of what your corporate documents are and what your personal documents are. And if I were to later wipe this device, the corporate documents would go away, but the personal documents would stay. So it's if I'm doing a selective wipe of the device, which preserves my recipes, but my top secret information around my corporate data goes away. So that's a quick overview of enterprise data protection. Again, those policies can be authored in Configuration Manager console for on-premises with agent-based, hybrid for hybrid or Intune and Config Manager together, and it can also be authored in Intune standalone. So all configurations are supported to author your enterprise data protection policies. Okay, I have one last demo I want to show today, and that's the Windows Store for Business and how we're Windows Store for Business with the management products of Configuration Manager and Microsoft Intune can be a powerful way to procure and deliver great new universal apps to your Windows 10 users. So let's start with an example of, I'm in the Windows Store for Business portal. I'm going to go ahead and grab Office out of here. So I'll click on Office. And for Configuration Manager, I'm going to choose offline mode. I'm going to choose offline mode primarily for the reason that I want to download the payload for the application as well as the license file, so that I can redistribute it through Configuration Manager and take advantage of all my distribution points and my infrastructure, my hierarchy, to get the application out there. And I'm choosing offline licensing mode because I'm not, my clients can't talk to the internet to validate their license. So there are optional license modes in Windows Store for Business. They're online, where you actually, the user would go out, or the client would go out and validate its license with the service. And there's offline mode where you download the payload. The client doesn't actually validate its license. You effectively have a set number of licenses you can use, and you're accountable for maintaining your licensing details that way. But for offline mode, I'm going to show that because that's the one we've integrated into Configuration Manager so far. So if I choose offline, then I choose Get the App. That's then going to give me the distribution option. It's going to tell me that I can use my management tool to distribute the offline licensed apps or download them from my inventory page. So I'll give that a second to process and post to my inventory page in the Windows Store for Business portal. So it says it's ready and tells me to go to the inventory page to get the application. So I'm just going to click OK here. And I land in inventory, and I see the offline version of Office, and I have some actions related to that. And this is where I can download it for offline use. So I simply choose Download for Offline Use. So I download here with the license file. So I just choose Download, and it's a standard download process. I pick a folder to save it into. I do Save As, and so I save it here in my Store Apps folder on my file server. And what I would just simply do with Configuration Manager is I would just simply go to the Applications node and start an application wizard, pick a deployment type of this application type, reference the source, and out it goes. So it's that easy. I just go download the application, redistribute it to my targeted collection, and out the application goes. So I'm able to go to the store, get a new universal app, say in this case Office, download it into my environment, stage it on a file server, and then redistribute it through normal Configuration Manager processes. And the Config Manager agent will then effectively install the application at the scheduled time of its availability, or if it's optional, the end user can install it using the new end user portal. So that wraps up the demos for today. And now we're just going to roll into the summary to highlight the main points I was making today. First step on how should you deploy and manage Windows really depends. The EMS plus Configuration Manager, with the Configuration Manager servicing model that I highlighted to keep it current and up to date with cloud services, and the constant iteration we're doing on that, really provides a great foundation, a flexible architecture to use upgrade or refresh or whatever method you want to use to get to Windows, get from your existing Windows 7, 8, and 8.1 population to Windows 10. Additionally, there are new capabilities for new Windows devices, such as Azure Active Directory Join and Intune Auto Enrollment, or the provisioning package to bootstrap the device into a desired configuration state at first run on a new Windows device, including the option to do SKU upgrade from Pro to Enterprise, so you can get that OEM base image device and get that up to your Enterprise SKU using your volume license key. With the Configuration Manager and Intune better together, both of those options are supported. We provide you the ability to stay on track with your current agent-based deployment that is used to manage your existing population of Windows. Use that to get to Windows 10. take advantage of the MDM side of the hybrid configuration to start managing Windows through MDM manageability, manage devices where they live, with the levels of manageability you need for particular users in your organization, and we allow you to do that at your own cadence. So the Better Together story here is really industry leading in a sense that we provide both sides of management, what you typically use today, which is Configuration Manager, and then mobile device management through Intune, and then those two are tightly coupled together to give you the best of both worlds, to manage your way and to move to modern management or mobile device management at a time of your choosing for users of your choosing at a cadence that you choose to go with. So the main point I wanted to make is that, main points I wanted to make to recap is our flexible architecture lets you manage your way. Our servicing model for Configuration Manager is great for keeping Configuration Manager current without massive updates of service packs, new versions, and it lets us keep in lockstep with the changing ecosystem of mobile devices, and in particular, the rapid innovation going on with Windows 10 through the Windows as a Service model. That combined with our rapid iteration on the Intune service side at a monthly cadence give you high speed velocity in a flexible architecture to manage, to deploy and manage Windows your way. To recap, we talked about choosing the best deployment method for your organization. We talked about keeping Windows 10 up to date with the servicing model and the new servicing changes we made to Configuration Manager, as well as to the rapid iteration we're doing on the Intune side of the service. And we talked about managing some of the new Windows 10 capabilities. To explore, try the Enterprise Mobility Suite now. Look it up on, you can get more information at the link here with Microsoft.com/EMS. Start using Windows 10. Lots of documentation on TechNet, lots of documentation on MSDN. Let us know your feedback. Go to those forums, read the blogs. There's a lot of great blogs out there by folks in our organization talking about the servicing model, the Better Together story. There's a lot of information on there. Lots of forums to post your feedback around the servicing model, questions, concerns. Go out there, find the documents, find the collateral, give us your feedback, and thanks so much for your time. Have a great day.